All right, welcome to Catalyst Circle meeting number 7. Wow, okay. We will do a quick check-in, just go around the room and see how everyone's doing. It's just a quick 5 or 10 second check-in to see where you're at, how you're feeling, and then we'll kick things off. So let's start with Joey and then we'll go to Felix.
Hi, everyone. I'm doing good. I'm hiding in my supply closet. So as long as I can keep people out and issue some pens and pencils, I'm okay.
Thank you, Joey. Felix, and then Reese.
Ooh, happy Thursday, everyone. I am happy as usual.
Excellent. Reese and then Nadia.
Hey guys, I'm good. I'm actually away at the minute in the Canary Islands, so I'm just chilling on my phone today, which means I'm not streaming. But yeah, everything's good.
Nadia Harris.
Hi, everyone. Same here for me. Looking forward to today.
Harris and then Mercy.
Definitely feeling good. It's definitely great to talk with the community and folks, and get lots of different perspectives, which is really nice. And excited about our discussion today and sort of how we can sort of move this forward. So I'm definitely thrilled to be here.
All right, Mercy and then Dimitri.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm hoping that we can get some really good clarity going forward. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Awesome, thanks. Dimitri and then Chris, welcome.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Looking forward to today's meeting as always.
All right, Chris, and then we'll go to JP.
Howdy, folks. So obviously this is my first time joining you all. Very pleased to be here. Very excited to contribute. Also very excited to have actually met some of the community members in the flesh yesterday. And yeah, I'm very keen to listen and observe and seeing how this all takes shape.
All right, thanks, Chris. How are you doing, JP?
Yeah, okay, so as I said, a little sick, so just here taping. Doing good though, a little jealous of you guys at Consensus, seeing all the picks. I really wish maybe I chose that instead of NFT Con, but we'll see, maybe next year. So really happy, excited to see what you guys discussed today.
All right, and for myself, I'm doing well. Looking forward to seeing how Fund 9 unravels and deploys. But yeah, here for the circle. It was nice. We've had a break, and I'm excited to get back into it and have the conversations. Any announcements? We have a couple of minutes set aside for any announcements that you want to make that are not in the agenda.
Maybe I take a minute to introduce myself. Felix Weber, joining the Catalyst Circle, rejoining the Catalyst Circle, was initially the representative for the toolmakers and maintainers in Catalyst Circle version 2, A1, and rejoining now to represent the Cardano Foundation. And why so? Yes, I'm a Cardano ambassador, help the Cardano ambassadors as well to figure out with Cardano Foundation how can we get closer, initiating this, okay, ambassadors representing the Cardano Foundation and issuing coordination and communication streams directly to the foundation, closer to the community. Besides this, I'm since 1.5 years full-time in Catalyst, founder of the Catalyst Swarm, which we created the Catalyst School, Latam Town Hall, Eastern Town Hall, now the Africa Town Hall. So, setting up as much as possible to support our community in moving forward. And that's my goal here as well, trying to figure out, okay, where are we right now? Where do we want to go? And what can I provide and do to move us there? But have to admit, there's a bunch of weird stuff from outside as it looks to Catalyst Circle, and some clarity on what is actually happening would be really great also for the community. There's a bunch of confusion. There's a bunch of not knowing what the heck is going on and what not. And yeah, hope to get at very first some clarity out of this call to know, okay, is the circle still a thing, even if not funded? Are the members still a thing? Do they change? Does re-elections have to take place? So, and yeah, that's it, but happy to be here. Most of you I know already, so really happy to be here with you and to move forward the whole thing. And thanks a lot for everything, what you did. Yes.
Thanks, Felix. And just for the recording and people listening in, Felix is coming in as the Cardano Foundation rep, replacing Bullish Dumpling, who has stepped down for the second part of the term. Any other announcements? Joey?
Yeah, I just have a quick question for Chris, since he's new to the group. I know he had roles in Catalyst before, so I would be interested to know how he feels like that role, plus the role he has now, is going to be, what his function will be.
Yeah, I think, definitely Chris has been working at Catalyst for quite some time, for sure. And he's definitely perfectly suited in terms of working on helping to drive Catalyst itself and working with funded proposers and the overall process. And so, definitely think that he's going to add a tremendous amount of value in terms of, working with the circle from IOG's perspective, helping to guide the processes as we go. And then certainly I'll be working closely with Chris in his position as an IOG representative that will be, here working with the circle kind of for the next term or and beyond.
You're on mute, Chris.
Yeah, technical user man function. First and foremost, I'm here to observe initially, and then to play a bit more of an active role as IOG's representation shifts from Harris to myself.
Thanks, guys. Any other announcements before we move on?
And it looks like Quasar has joined as well.
Yeah, I had a question about that. Quasar doesn't officially have a role on the circle, so I'm assuming he's here in a observer capacity. So I haven't called on him because the check-ins and everything are usually just the participants. And if he's here to listen, then that's fine. But I do have a question how that came about, because this is normally a closed meeting, even though it's live streamed and recorded.
Quasar, are you here with us?
I am, but I'm just observing. And I received the Zoom link from Dimitri after asking for it. So I'm just here to listen and observe.
He wanted to observe since we will be discussing that in my proposal for the what we call the sub-circle action team, and he will be part of the action team, so that's coming up on the agenda. So he wanted to observe the meeting today.
I would vote against this because this hasn't been a decision which has been decided by the circle. When we open the space here, there should be alignment in the circle. Dimitri, you should check with the other circle reps at first what their feedback is. And that decisions like opening the call to individuals, which might definitely be maybe an interesting solution, should beforehand be decided with your colleagues here. It's about collaboration and not making single decisions.
Well, Felix, seeing that you're coming in new, we did have a discussion, and the circle reps did not. We did not have a meeting to discuss it, but I have spoken to some of the circle reps, and they have no objection to Quasar observing it for today. And in any case, since we are going to be discussing regarding the sub-circle, and he will be part of the sub-circle, and he will be one of the people who will be taking over as the one of the members of the general ADA holder sub-circle. So we will be discussing that in a few minutes.
Okay. Have you added that to the agenda, Dimitri?
I have given that to Andre, and he was to communicate that. I did not add that to the agenda, but I've added another item as well. So that is also included within the same.
Okay. Yeah, I'm totally fine to have Quasar, listen in, and no problem from my end. I don't know if the rest of the circle is open to it.
All right. Joey, are you okay with that? Felix, how are you with this?
Fine.
To second back, I'm okay. Nice to be here, but I'm not new to the circuit. I mean, like I mentioned, I'm in the Catalyst circle since and Catalyst Circle version 1. I recruited the CC admin team as well.
I
No, just please just let me finish.
I understand. So
Dimitri?
there at the beginning, but I'm saying this particular circle.
Can you just please let me finish when I speak my sentence? I will do the same to you as well. Thanks a lot. And since the Catalyst Circle version 1, I mentor as well the CC admin team, which includes also weekly calls. So I'm very close to the Catalyst Circle also through Catalyst Circle version 2 and Catalyst Circle version 3. I catch up on all the recordings and I'm very well informed about what is going on. Maybe to give you context, Catalyst Circle version 1 was all about Catalyst is environment to explore the highest potential of human collaboration. The Catalyst Circle aims to represent Catalyst ecosystem as a body. The goal here is to explore as well in the Catalyst Circle itself, to explore the highest potential of human collaboration. And human collaboration means that when decisions are made, we want to make these decisions together, to be sure that we get the feedback and the input from representatives, which they receive from their community. And here then we say, oh, okay, cool. How can we evolve? How can we improve the format? By making single decisions, what happens if that there's a lack of alignment then, which appears? And it will make it difficult for the circle in general to operate. Dimitri, once again, I'm almost finished. Please just let me finish my sentence. Thanks a lot. I'm almost finished. I will give you the time to respond to it as well without interrupting you. What happens then if we all start to make our single decisions without asking the others what they think about? What will happen is that we have exactly what happened in the last weeks or month, a lack of alignment. And not only in the circle, this lack of alignment will be reflected out of us as well. And the community will not receive a circle who has a focus and knows what to do. They just see a bunch of individuals lacking alignment. So you are a representative here. You have to do nothing else than to represent what the community presents to you.
Felix, you need to understand your role here. You are as a member of the Cardano Foundation. You are not here as a mentor to tell us how to run the circle. We respect your being here in version 1, but please understand that you are here as a member of the Cardano Foundation, not to run the circle. Therefore, creating an idea that you are telling us how to do it at this point is not going to help. As you very well know, I am resigning from the general leader holder position for the reasons I have made myself clear. So therefore, Quasar and several other people will be taking over as a sub-circle of which I will also be a part, and we will be operating as a general leader holder sub-circle. So we will be discussing that. So on this basis, there is no need to say that there is no alignment because we have discussed it, and creating an issue about this is pointless. We are getting into things and taking up time because the meeting has a particular agenda and we should stick to that agenda. Thank you.
Okay, getting back to the go around. I'm taking it that Felix has an objection to Quasar attending this meeting. Is that true, Felix?
Definitely. And to clarify one thing, I'm not a member of the Cardano Foundation. I'm Felix Weber. I'm a Catalyst community member. I don't have any contract signed with any entity.
Then if you're not a member of the foundation, Felix, why are you here? You're representing the foundation.
Because I work very close with people from the Cardano Foundation.
Okay, let's
I'm a
hold
Cardano.
Hold on. So because there is a very strong objection to Quasar being here, I'm going to ask Quasar to leave this meeting, and then the circle can discuss whether we have external parties coming in, and if there is broad agreement and consensus on that.
No, because it can be one person who's
Sorry, Dimitri, I'm muting you so I can finish talking. And then once we have broad agreement as a circle, we can bring in external people if that is something that the circle wants as observers. But right now, since we didn't have prior agreement and I myself as facilitator was surprised with Quasar showing up, I think there was no broad agreement at all. The admin team did not know this was going to happen. We would have sent out a formal invite. Sharing a closed meeting Zoom invite is highly inappropriate. And we need to do this officially and have meeting invites sent out officially with agreement across the circle. So Quasar, if you could leave the meeting, then we can continue with agenda planning here.
Actually, Nori, may I speak now? There has been objection only from one person here, and that is Felix. And no one else seems to have any objections to it. So I don't see why there should be any reason to kick out Quasar, especially since he's going to be taking over as one of the general leader holders.
Because we're trying to follow some kind of decorum and process here, and it's causing some issues with the harmony of the circle, and that's part of my responsibility to make sure this meeting flows well. And it's awkward, and I really love Quasar and appreciate all of that he does, but we need to follow procedures here, and there will be a recording. If he's just here's a fly on the wall, he's not going to miss anything. And because it's being recorded as we speak, but I'm just asking that he leaves right now, and then we can continue with the meeting.
I think I'm going to support Nori so that we can just move on. There should be precedence. I know that this could be misinterpreted as bureaucratic, etc., but let's do things the right way. Dimitri, if you were not in attendance and you wanted Quasar to stand in for you, I think that would be fair. If Quasar has a presentation to make to the meeting, then it's good for there to be agreement, or even if it's one of our working sessions, then we plan it. I think that what Nori has said, he's made a decision. Let's give some respect to his seat, and let's just do what he's saying, and let's move on.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I'm really good mates with Quasar, but I think we shouldn't just be inviting everyone, and just let us know in future, and we can actually all agree on it, and we can move on together, rather than argue and toss about it now.
And sorry for taking that much time to the topic. I didn't want to go too much there.
No, it's good. I think we're helping set some precedents here. So Quasar, could you please leave, and then we'll continue.
It looks like he says he's trying, but he can't. So if somebody can remove him.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. And getting back to the agenda, it sounds like we do have quite a bit to talk about, and I would rather us focus on the agenda than do the GitHub board. So maybe we can flip the order and go straight to the agenda items. And then if there is time after the conversation, we can come back to the GitHub board. What do you all think about that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, thumbs up. Nadia, are you okay with that? Reese?
Yeah, all good. All good.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at the consent agenda. We have actually, JP, can you drop a link to the agenda in chat just in case people need that? And then we have a topic from Mercy, I think. What is the agenda output of the circle for the remainder of the term? How often should we meet, and what should be the format of the meetings? Should we keep reporting to town hall? If yes, what should be the format? Should be modified from the previous? And then we have election for CCv4. Any other topics?
For that first item, is it going to be, I just want to, for notes, better the discussion in each question, or we just kind of do a free for all of whatever those questions?
What would you like to do, Mercy?
I think we can take it step by step and see how that goes. And if that doesn't make for good note keeping, we can modify.
There in one of these points, time address to have some time to just a catalyst circle reality check circle didn't get funded. How are the members right now? Do they move on as representatives or do they jump off? It would be nice to have some called just a reality check and to provide some feedback to the community, because it's not clear now how circle will go on or if it even goes on. So it'd be great to have some clarity there.
Is that maybe a fundamental question that we should start with?
Yeah, that works. So are we waiting for additions to the agenda, or should I kick this off, the discussion off?
Let me just add that.
Oh, sure. Okay, that's good.
And I know there was some other topic related to maybe changing the process of how we're tracking problems, prioritize problems. I know, Reese, you had some suggestion. I don't know if that's something we want to entertain in this meeting, or if we would table that for working.
I can literally just talk about that at any point if we have some time. I mean, it's not anything that's particularly innovative. It's really just duplicating what Nadia and Mercy had done previously, but applying it to every part of the circle and kind of putting ourselves out of work rather than just making it more of a community-based thing, basically. So it's up to you guys. If we have time, we can talk about it. If not, we can figure that out next time.
Okay, I've added that to the bottom, just to discuss changes to the prioritized problem board process. Okay, anything else that people would like to discuss today? Not okay. So let's kick it off with what is the status and future of the circle as a topic? And maybe we can just raise hands and go around. Harris.
Yeah, I definitely feel that the community, while we didn't get funded, I don't believe that the community voiced that they didn't want to have the circle in. So it was approved but not funded. And we certainly are getting some backlash and some questions of what the circle is doing, and definitely even some negative feedback, I think, in some of the last town halls. And the objective is for us to listen and to sort of help facilitate resolving issues and resolving problems. And I'm not exactly sure the best routes of communicating that more clearly or being more transparent. I think the process is reasonable. And so I feel that the existence of the circle should persist, and that we still are operating as a body. I think there's a number of us that have opted into continuing to participate, even though there isn't direct funding right now. We certainly can change the structure of how the circle is working and operating and funded and these kinds of things. I'm certainly open to that discussion. But maintaining the existence of the circle, I think, is an important piece to facilitate a handoff of decision-making from input output into a body that's outside of input output. And I think it is a critical piece, how it's formed, how it's run, and how it's communicated on what it is we're doing and the value that we're adding. We certainly can change the definition. I'm grateful that that we haven't. There's an oversight committee right now that exists to oversee, or at least provide some feedback to what the circle is doing, and what Catalyst is doing as a whole. And I think the circle can become stronger, and we can define the process better. And it's something that we should work towards, persisting and maintaining, and even possibly evolving it into something that becomes a decision-making body, for the purpose of helping to drive, how Catalyst works. So it's just sort of my initial stance on the continuance of it. I'm really grateful that folks are here on a volunteer basis. So thank you for being here. I'm really appreciative and respect each and every one of you. So I'm, glad that we can at least be here to try to work this out and find sort of the common ground and the next steps for what the circle becomes.
Thanks, Harris. Reese, your thoughts, and then Joey.
Yeah, I agree with Harris. I think we were voted in on a 6-month term or 2 funds. And I think we owe it to Catalyst and to the community to fulfill that role, regardless of funding. But I understand that other people might not feel that way, and that's fine. No hard feelings. If they choose to step down, then that's cool. But I'm here, and I'm going to do the work that I think would enable us to kind of push things forward. This is an iterative process, so let's use this time to iterate and to improve things, whether that's improving the process, whether that's changing the process slightly and testing it for a fund. I think there are ways that we can go about it that can help us actually move things forward rather than continuing with the same kind of questions and comments and criticisms every fund, that we need to be improving it every time. So that's kind of the work that I want to be doing for the next 3 months.
Thanks, Reese. Joey.
Yeah, I agree with Harris and Reese. I do not believe that the non-funding, since we were voted for, but non-funding was a referendum on the validity of the circle, nor the circle mentors or the admin team or the treasurers or the secretaries for the technical council, because they were all included in the proposal. Now, feedback that I got from my son, who had not reviewed the proposal ahead of time, but reviewed it as a voter, was that it was confusing. There was a lot of information there. It was confusing as what it was trying to do. And so for him, it wasn't, he didn't even support it because he didn't understand it. And the $100,000 or so was a lot of money. And so he passed it by because it was confusing to him. So I just want to throw that out there.
Thanks, Joey. Felix.
And as well to the funding situation, yes, this might be have caused as well in Fund 8. We won the first time the test to say, okay, what happens if we include Catalyst Circle budget together with Catalyst Circle admin budget? Simply just double the amount and the budget. And mostly the budget in Catalyst is very important also if you receive funds or not. So we saw that there was a serious amount of people voting for the proposal, but the budget, as it included everything, let's say, exploded a little bit the budget. And yeah, so I think what Catalyst Circle admin team also came to conclusion to separate them both, as it has been before as well. And yeah, that if there are any future proposals for Catalyst Circle and CC admin teams, that they are separated, and also give the current community then the possibility to vote separately on them and not put them all into one bucket, as CC admin team and CC itself are kind of different bodies.
Thanks, Felix. Reese, you have something else too?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat actually, but like we got to also consider that there was another proposal submitted by Dimitri against a lot of our, I don't know what the best way to put that is, but without our consent, and which also plays into a lot of the problems and challenges that we faced in the previous fund as well, with criticisms about the circle. Based on that and several other things. So I think that's something to bear in mind as well. We were under quite heavy fire in the last fund. A lot of it was unreasonable and unfair and unnecessary, but that also plays into whether or not we get funded, because that's where people choose to pick votes based on the kinds of things that happened in that fund. So something to consider as well.
Thanks. Harris and then Joey.
Yeah, one of the things that I think was also missing from the proposal is a clear category. And one of the things as we lead into the future, perhaps we need to actually present some type of, Catalyst governance challenge, so that proposals could be made by the community to make it better, right? And even have a solid category in a place to make these asks for funding for these various functions that we're building there. So I think it would be really helpful to do the work, certainly now that we're in Fund 9 and we have opportunities, that we should actually craft a set of challenges and proposals that we want to put forth for this next round, which can include the challenge itself, and then even a number of the items potentially related to the elections. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's a good point. And the admin team has been talking about putting in a placeholder governance challenge setting. So I was going to do that later today just to have a placeholder, and then we can work on the content with the Circle admin team and maybe governance oversight and anybody involved with governance, and kind of get that together. But the admin team is very happy to steward the actual document writing of that and coordinate that with everybody. Joey, you're muted, by the way.
I agree with Reese on the downvotes. There was so much angst and controversy in the community, at every corner of the community. You've gone on Twitter, Telegram, Discord. There was always some kind of comments and negative comments. So I think a lot of the downvotes came as a result of that, or we would have been higher up in the numbers, and maybe we would have gotten funded. But just throw that out there.
All right, so we have a lot of people who are supportive of the Circle continuing and the mission and involving what we do. Are there any voices that are counter to that question whether the Circle should continue? It'd be interesting just to hear some other voices if there are. Mercy, and then Felix.
I think that I will still stand by the fact that a lot of the voting that goes on in the community is a vote of priorities. In terms of, bundling this, the Fund 8 together, and, maybe it was it could be 1,000 reasons why it wasn't funded. It could be the budget was too big, the proposal wasn't well written, there's so many things. But what we need to remember is that there were other projects that got funded. First of all, with a bigger budget. There was another project that actually got the top depths, and there was almost nothing written. It was like, problem, challenge, and it just got funded because that's, like a provider that the community holds in high esteem. So I think that we really need to get to the root of some of these things, in the sense that I feel like if we try to solve these problems and then keep going the way that we are going in Fund 4, let's say we split it, we split the proposals into two. For I meant Fund 9 version 4. If we split it into two and then say admin gets funded, but the reps don't get funded, then what happens? I think that, just sort of jumping off of what Harris said, there is a big sort of incentive for IOG, and I'm hoping that even if for the CF as well, especially, to, for the Circle to be a handoff group, then there really has to be a lot of proactivity in terms of how the Circle is funded in a consistent way, so that there is not this, make sure that the proposal goes in, make sure that you're ticking all these boxes. You can tick all the boxes that you want, and if the community don't want it, I promise you, it will not get funded. So I think that there's a fundamental issue here that as I said during our last meeting, that's something that I'm willing to put some free time into. Otherwise, it just feels like, it's putting water in a sieve almost. That's how I feel.
Thanks, Mercy. Felix.
One thing where I think we might have opportunity and question a little bit the current structure of the Catalyst Circle is simply by saying, hey, at the very end, we are nobody else than each other project in Catalyst. Bunch of people coming together, trying to make things better, right? And trying to give it authority and everything. Hey, this is this one circle and whatnot. We see how the community reacts to, hey, wait, no, we don't want to have this central body. And as we should do, like each other fucking project in Catalyst, is act, reflect, improve. And from this regard also, there's been a lot of actions in the last few weeks, months. We should take a certain time to reflect. I think it's extremely interesting to see what happened with the subcircles. And Nadia and Marcy, you have been amazing there. And maybe also to think in the best case of governance, it should not be the circle or the circle admins who write the Catalyst circle proposals. It should be the community. And the community should be directly included in submitting, drafting, refining, and finalizing those proposals. So that may make sure that what we propose comes from the community itself and not from a small body, which tries to find the decisions. But at the end, we try to represent a certain interest or needs or challenges from the ecosystem. But as individuals, we won't be able to tackle them, right? So for me, it would more be interesting to say this concept, which have been discovered by subcircles, might be a huge opportunity and a really interesting future for the circle itself. So that the subcircles write their own proposals to fund their own representatives, and they run the stuff. So maybe then to say, how could we support this emergence of the subcircles? How can it, because this is exactly what we want to happen, right? The community, including participating in this process here. And we don't want to do the work. We should see, how can we outsource the work to the community? And we just submit it by, hey, okay, this is the petition. We represent their need then. So I would even go as far to say, hey, should there be one general Catalyst circle proposal for all the reps? Or maybe should there be those for the circle reps individually? Because when it's true and they are elected by their community, they have already a community. They have people which engage already around them. So.
Thanks, Felix.
Circle is dead, long live the circle.
I think those are really good points, because there have been really some really great developments with subcircles and things, and maybe we evolved to subcircles send representatives to the main circle, and subcircles defined by an existing community like the CAs and others. But maybe if somebody can come up with 50 names on a petition that can create their own kind of subcircle from some other part of the community that we aren't representing properly, or yeah, just tossing ideas around. But Harris, your hand's up.
Yeah, certainly. I love the subcircle concept and sort of how that works. There's certainly the open question, how do we consistently fund, something like this? And right now we're funding challenge teams, we're funding each of the roles that play within the Catalyst ecosystem, and those are parameters. And so do we establish a parameter that's, here's the Catalyst circle parameter, which is this much, and we could put that out as a specific proposal and let the community decide, if it's fair, if it's reasonable. We could propose, hey, here's a flat amount that is just given to Catalyst to operate as a parameter, and that's paid out of the treasury. So that could be an approach that we take. There's certainly part of the discussion I'd love to have on the elections for CCv4 is more of the proposals for each of the roles and the seats, but even deciding which seats we make available is something to discuss, but that's for that agenda item.
Reese.
Yeah, I think we're all heading in the same direction with this. I think we all have the same mentality where we've seen this subcircle process work, and we've seen it work across other places, and it's really the best opportunity for us to implement this kind of process now and test it. We have some funding laying around for each of us for our subcircles or for other means as necessary. It's the ideal way to kind of get that initial bit of funding towards paying people to work as improvements come up. I think it would be easy once we prove this concept's working to get buy-in from the community. I spoke on the SBO call last week about it, and loads of the SBOs thought it was a great idea. It was a much better process for us to move things forward. And yeah, I think funding won't be an issue for that. We'll find the money as it needs, whether that's through Catalyst or, you know, maybe that's something that we can figure out. We put a proposal in for it. But yeah, I think we'll head in the same direction. I think we just need to get it going as soon as possible, really. The faster we can implement it, which shouldn't take too long, the faster we can implement it, the faster we can see these results. And I think it'll work perfectly, like just as well as it did with Nadia and with Mercy previously.
Thanks, Reese. Joey.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand, Harris, your concept there. Is that a proposal that would fund the circle a certain amount for a year, or permanent funding, or some other idea there?
The proposal is just basically having an amount for that as a paid role, right? So there would be a set amount. We need to establish the validity of, you know, is the community willing to pay for that, for sure. But, you know, we created challenge teams to bootstrap that process, and there's been acceptance of it. And there's a set amount that comes out of Treasury to make sure that those that particular role operates. And my suggestion is just that we could treat this in a similar fashion, you know, with the assumption that the circle is adding value to the community.
Mm-hmm. And we've just added DREPs as well that operate the same way as a new governance kind of experiment.
Exactly.
Reese, is your hand back up again or still up from last time?
Sorry, I forgot to put it down. Let me drop it now for you.
Okay. We haven't heard from Nadia or Dimitri yet. Do either of you have anything you want to add to this?
I like the idea of experimenting here in this space that we have with some alternative approaches. I'm always for that. I think it's really difficult in hindsight when you don't have the full understanding to develop an understanding of why things happen one way or the other. So I'm hesitant to say this didn't get funded because of this or that, and to move forward according to that assumption is a tough thing for a representative body to do. That said, because there is that question mark, I think it does leave us some really fantastic space to think about how we're structured and think about how we interoperate, which is maybe the biggest opportunity of this troublesome question mark. And I also really appreciate that just even the space to evaluate the organization of not just the representation, but we have these gaps we looked at, like, you know, DREPs will probably is now a question. The proposers is a question. So there's places in the ecosystem that don't have representation. Is that something that we look at this time? Is representing by role or part of the process the way? I know that I'm backed way out here, but we are emerging here. So there's space for us to ask these sort of like fundamental questions about how we're structured. Could it be, does that create imbalance? Does it create the need for a different way of approach by each of us? And I like that idea. I like the idea of the distribution of the rep into a subcircle. So I did spend some time talking to different members of the circle. I think pretty much everyone here about those ideas. I've been thinking about that a lot myself. Within the PA group, which I'm now trying to get used to saying, within the PA group, there's the side treasury that we have, which is a different kind of an opportunity. We have this collection of tools, which we've talked about making open for other groups and more broadly to the community for sensing, so that it would automate and create more opportunity for some of the community members to just use that process and then have it sort of filter up and receive votes and prioritization that is community driven. And for us specifically, there's there's a collection of people who are very active, because that role itself necessitates a good sense of that part of the process. So a lot of successes there. I think perhaps what will work with one group wouldn't work with all of them, but maybe it could be that we all looked at how that might be structured. I put a little slide together myself. We don't have to take the time in this call to do it. It's more, I think this call is more about understanding the openness to experimentation. And I'm happy to share it. Maybe I'll plug it in the agenda, or I'll put it in the chat and you guys can just eyeball it and see what you think. But I took a shot from my perspective of how the role itself might distribute, so that we have an opportunity for both the cultivation of leadership across the board and also less centralization to one person of the representation. So I like the idea of exploring that. I don't have a strong opinion, because I don't think I have the details to have a strong opinion on the funding issue. So representation and the ability to sense problems and cross collaborate is a need of the system. How we organize that is, I think, on the table here for discussion, definitely.
Thanks, Nadia. Dimitri, do you have any thoughts on the legitimacy and future of the circle to add to this conversation?
Yeah, so as I said, we have the rapid funding mechanism, which we want to use to, like we took an example from what Nadia has done with the PAs and what Mercy has done with the funded proposals, and we've set out a sub-circle who will be taking on the activities of the G8 role, and that will be what we propose to discuss and plan out a catalyst roadmap as part of the overall community's input into that. And that is what the rapid funding is going to be used for, which I've already put to Andre. So in answer to your question, I'm in agreement that the circle reps roles can be taken on by the sub-circle, and the work can be done the way that Nadia and Mercy are doing at the moment.
Okay, so it sounds like from everyone's view, the circle is legitimate and people want to experiment, and we're leaning towards sub-circles as kind of an experimental model of engagement. And just to summarize kind of what we've been talking about here, and yeah, I just want to state, I think that's a great mechanism to push governance down to the grassroots level and get more participation. So I like that direction. Joey, and then Harris, and then Felix.
Yeah, I've talked to Nadia and Mercy and Dimitri individually. I don't want to talk for them, but my understanding is that going forward, rather than the circle break up and people drop off as the main person sitting here every 2 weeks, is that they would like to have the ability to have some sub-circle folks rotate in and out of the circle, so that they can still be representative, but not necessarily a permanent sitting here every 2 weeks. So correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's kind of my understanding. Now, whether that person, I think in Nadia's case, gets voted in through the app that her and Scott created, or whether they get appointed, as Dimitri, I think, was thinking about doing, or some other method is a question. But I mean, I agree with Nadia. It's an experiment, so why not experiment? We have the 3 months here. Rather than see the circle broken, I'd rather see us experiment. So it's just my comment.
All right. Thanks, Joey. Harris.
Yeah, I definitely think it might be worthwhile to define a little better. I'm definitely curious to see your drawing, Nadia, and sort of how you've drafted this up. And I know there's been an amazing amount of work that has gone into the sub-circle structure. Dimitri, I am interested in understanding a little bit of your thoughts on the structure. I want to call out that it does seem to me that it seems to be money motivated, where you're trying to enter the sub-circle so you can pay yourself. So I want to call that out explicitly. And I don't know if other seats are following that same payment schedule, but again, the rapid funding was intended, to support others that would support you as a circle member originally. Certainly open to experimentation, but I'm just concerned, Dimitri, you're stepping down as your role, but you're still in the subcircle and you're going to pay yourself. That's my concern. So I'd like to understand that better.
Do you want me to answer that right now?
Yeah, I'm interested in it. So yeah, if
Yeah,
everyone's
so
okay with
the answer to that question is, as I said last time, I will be stepping down as the ADA holder, and we are on our basis, we are not putting forward one single person as the ADA holder, but if that is insisted on by the IOG, then we will put forward Quasar as the general ADA holder. Because he was going to be the replacement in any case if I was not coming for meetings, as I stated before. As for the work to be done, it is not just me. There is a bunch of people who will be doing a bunch of work in preparation of the Catalyst roadmap. And all those people who are doing whatever the roles that are there will be incentivized and paid for the work that is being done. So as I stated from the very beginning, I'm not prepared to work on a voluntary basis in this role. So I've been quite honest about it. And if I'm working in that subcircle, I will be compensated as will be anyone else who is working, as will anyone else who is working in the PA subcircle or the funded proposal subcircle, because ultimately these subcircles are doing a work which the community deems is necessary and which is intended to build up the governance in that particular role. So the PAs will do work to build up the PA role, and the work of the PAs to be more beneficial to the community. The same way with the funded proposals, the tool makers, the stake pools will have their own subcircles. So calling me out and saying I'm motivated is an unfair statement, simply because I will be, as much as anyone else, incentivized for doing. If I don't work, I won't be incentivized. If they don't work, they won't be incentivized. So it's all the same. Subcircle is a circle. I mean, there is no points or higher or lower. It's a circle. So the circle will be doing particular things in the development of this Catalyst roadmap. We will be having deliverables where we will be delivering an output, which will be the roadmap. This is similar to the roadmap that was done by the community, I believe it was in 2020. And this will be a roadmap developed by the community for the community. And that is the benefit of, or that will be the deliverable that will be the rapid funding mechanism will be used for. So as part of the discussion, as much as Nadia is part of her subcircle and Mercy is part of her subcircle, I will be part of my subcircle. So that's what I can say about that.
Matthew, always when you speak about we in this regard, can you please provide something like, do you have a channel for your community, a Discord, a Telegram? Because for me, it seems a little bit like the beginning of CC version 3, when following you, that the only interaction which was recognizable was a survey with 17 participants. And I dubbed a little bit your representation in the circle at general, as there is not really, there aren't any achievements through the last 3 months since you are in the role. And when speaking about we, I have a little bit the impression that you very often confront a we with I, and I would like to have some clarity on this regard with which people you're walking, because you try to represent the community here. And I think that nobody here, no, please let me finish. And Nori, can you please just mute when, just would love to finish my sentences, Dimitri. I will give you the time to answer to it. But it's also about transparency, it's about collaboration. I think that the most of the Catalyst Circle members are able to anyway showcase, hey, those are the community members which helped me to do my job. This is the job, right? Highlight the communities member which will support you in your role. So you shouldn't have any shame to show them, but would be really great to have some information with which people you actually work with who support you as a Catalyst Circle representative.
Thanks, Felix. And just before I give it to Dimitri, I just wanted to mention that's probably a really good point, that with all these subcircles forming, we should be very clear to the community how someone can join a subcircle if they're interested. And I'm not sure if that is completely clear to everybody. And maybe that's something that as a group we work towards for the next town hall, just to at least have some kind of transparency around what are the subcircles, how does one join a subcircle, and if you're interested, here's kind of the details around that. Yeah, Reese.
I don't know if Dimitri actually wanted to respond quickly before, but actually mine kind of goes on top of that as well. I spoke to a lot of the people who are kind of forming that subcircle with you, Dimitri, and I actually think that stepping down and then getting paid as a subcircle member as an individual isn't really very appropriate. I don't think Nadia or Mercy are paying themselves through that rapid funding mechanism. And I don't think also that it would take that full amount of money to make a roadmap. I do agree that it needs to be done, but I don't think it should be done by you. I think letting Quasar do it, letting Lido do it, and the other people who are involved in that actually do that work is a better way for a better way for implementing this circle. And yeah, because I don't think it's appropriate for you to step down from this position in order to get funded. And I completely agree with where Harris is coming from, that that is what it seems like you're doing. And I think that's some kind of, I don't think that's the right way to use the funding, basically. Pay someone else to do it, perfect. But paying yourself to do it, I don't think is appropriate.
All right, Dimitri, do you want to have the floor for a sec, or?
Yeah, well, the people who, to answer the first question, the people who are involved are people like Ada Cafe, ADAO, Lido, Quasar, and several other people who are involved with the community, who are interested, Scott, and many other people who are interested in building up the community. I don't see anything wrong with my getting paid if I'm doing a job of work and not getting paid if I'm not doing a job of work. So I think that it's quite reasonable if I'm going to get paid, if the community feels that it's worthwhile. That is a fair assessment, because ultimately the job of the ADA holder is done by this group of subcircle members. So we have not had any discussion. It seems that it's only my proposal for how the rapid funding should be deployed is being questioned like this. But it's all right. The other members of the subcircles, the other reps have put in their members of the subcircles, and they are doing work and they are getting compensated for their work, which is perfectly all right. So why am I the only one who has to not get paid if I do work? This is the whole problem with the circle, where it seems that there is an expectation that people should work without getting paid. What is the problem? If I am going to be part of a group, that group will have oversight over my work and everybody else's work, and they will pay accordingly. So I don't see why the circle, who never had any issues about Joey's deployment of funds or your deployment of funds or anybody else's deployment of funds, be saying something specifically accusing me of doing it for the sake of getting paid. Yes, I'm going to get paid, but I'm not doing it for the sake of getting paid. I'm doing it so that I can also participate in the work. And as much as everyone else gets paid, I will get paid as well. Getting paid is not a dirty word here. Getting paid is getting compensated for the work that one does. And to answer the question, I have mentioned the names of the people, but there are many other people who come and talk to me about concerns in the community. They bring about concerns as to why you are here. You're not involved with Cardano Foundation. You work closely with them, as you said, but that does not give you a role in the Cardano Foundation or a representative role. So actually, the circle should not be having you unless you are a member of the Cardano Foundation. So that is another issue that has been brought to my attention. But since I'm stepping down, I said I'm not going to take that on. But there are many people who voice concerns about the community and about the circle, about the legitimacy of the circle, and about the role that you play in influencing the circle. So as such, these are all questions that the circle will have to take up. But that is at a circle level, the IOG will have to look into it, and so on and so forth. As for the sub-circle, myself and a bunch of other people who are named in the document, which I have put forward, and there are other people as well, will be in the sub-circle doing a job of work. So if I'm in the sub-circle, I will be getting paid as much as the other 4 or 5 or 6 people who are there will also be getting paid.
Thanks for your viewpoint, Dimitri. Nadia, and then Reese.
So I thought I would just clarify here. And also to Chris's question about, it's maybe a nice just thing to have in the recording as well, that we all use subcircle a little differently. So each of the ways that we've formed groups and had them work on things has been different over this past fund. So what we're thinking about here is an actual, like, more formal subcircle where people, let me put it this way. The first thing I want to say is this is not like a well shopped out, baked slide that I put here. This is like a very initial draft idea. It's not distributed. It's not voted on or thought about. It's simply like a little bit of just observation here. I have, for me personally, just to clarify, I don't think that I would take any of these roles. So I would remove myself out of the rep role, have the rep role distributed across these. This is how I'm thinking about it right now. So this is like such an early conversation, but just for clarification. And then because we have the treasury, I, as the proposer of that from the rep role, have the role of the treasury trustee. So I don't think it makes sense to have multiple roles, especially since we have a treasury trustee that will rotate. So I think that there's enough leadership, and especially considering the problems that are forthcoming and the things that we need to address for the PA community, I think that there's enough people. We could vote here, we could appoint. These are things that need to be decided upon. I do think that it makes sense to distribute the rapid funding. If we go this route, I think it makes sense that could be a distribution of the rapid funding. Again, I'm not going to take any of these roles, so that situation, it may be a little different. I don't disagree or agree either way with someone being paid who steps down. I'm just saying that that's not what I have thought about in this particular situation. And if we chose to go a route where we tried this out, I do think that we should have a little bit of discussion. They don't all have to look the same, but there could be some standardization here. I didn't think of Paul Revere. I didn't think of a better name. So if that's out of context, I'm just thinking of that person as the distributor of information, and then make the person who makes sure that we get information shared broadly. Twitter and all kinds of places that I don't really frequent, or I didn't frequent this time, I think there's space for a person to really consider the broad distribution and involvement of people. So I probably would have changed that if I didn't know we were going to record it and put it up here, but which is great that we are. So, and this could go differently in each group. So I think if we decided to go this direction, we should iron some of these questions out. And since this discussion naturally went this way, I'm happy to have it included, but yeah, those question marks need answering. And I don't think any of us have those particularly thorough here. So there's probably space for us to refine further and think about how each of the communities could be served by something that's more distributed.
Thanks, Nadia. Reese, and then Warren.
Yeah, sorry, no, just quickly. So I've used some of the rapid funding for SPOs. I haven't used it to pay myself. I don't think it's not for us as individuals. And so I don't think that we should be using it or finding ways that we can use it and kind of worm our way into getting paid through that funding mechanism. It's explicit that it's not for us. So just on what Dimitri said, just to completely clear it up, because I don't want to keep going around in circles on it. I don't think that it's appropriate for you to be paying yourself to do it. Pay other people to do it. Pay Quasar, pay Lido, pay the Ada Cafe, pay whoever, it's fine. But I don't think it's appropriate for you to be paying yourself with that fund, because it's explicitly not for us. So that's my thoughts on it.
Thanks, Reese. Harry or Harris, and then Mercy.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate that same statement. The rapid funding mechanism is not intended for the rep. So it would, maybe in the future as we experiment, that could be redefined. But to do that in one fell swoop without sort of the buy-in from the community, and with it explicitly saying you shall not be paid, it does violate. So I think I would like to block that capability for Dimitri's specific situation because it's written that way now. I totally support us experimenting, and I think during this time where we're not, where we are operating as a circle, but we have a real chance to architect what this could look like. Taking some of the great value and the starting place that Nadia has sort of come out with, and some of the other experiences that we've already seen success with the subcircles, architect what that future state will be, put it out there for the community to respond to, and then we can ratify, how the circle works with the community.
Thanks, Eris. Mercy.
I think I just want to sort of clarify a little bit, support what Dimitri said in terms of, let's take from the table this whole idea of, working and not getting compensated is honorable. I know that is good, volunteering is good, but if we can, the best way that we can attract a whole range of people is to make sure that we play as level a playing field as possible. So first of all, I want to say that. The second thing that I want to say that in terms of, the rapid funding, I think I really want to go with what Carrie said, in the sense that we could potentially look at, that whole thing and then figure out, especially going forwards, figure out. I think that it is good that we say clearly that it is not for the rep to pay themselves, in the sense that we don't want it to be money that comes in and then a rep decides, okay, I've done all this work all by myself, so I'm taking all the money. But I think that there is way in there, there should be room in there, and I believe that there is room in there to look at Nadia's circle that she's done so beautifully, that these are rules, or these are work that needs to be done. So right now, for our current subcircle, we are looking at, looking at the jobs that need to be done. So that is something that is open, either within the subcircle or outside the subcircle. If somebody has an idea for, what do you call it, to improve the funded proposer experience, then they can, put in a job. And, just looking at, Dimitri in terms of how he spent his time and, the experience that he brings, I think that there should be some wiggle room, not to pay the rep role, but to pay something, like say a trustee role, or the formation of a subcircle role, or any of that. I personally, I don't think that is something that is too off, in the sense that, if people are putting in their time, I mean, it is something that we can even open to the, to the admin group. If there are some things that they want to do, this is a role, do it, and then people get compensated through that. Yeah, that is what I'll say for now. Some of us, for the current one, some of us have decided, I know what, I don't want any drama. I'm not going to do any of the, even if I do that work, it's voluntary. I'm not going to get paid. Just stay out of that drama. But I think that we should sort of move away a little bit from making it seem like it's a dirty word for people to want to do something specific and get paid. As long as there's clarity around it and there is no conflict of interest, I think that we can, figure out something.
Thanks, Mercy. Felix. And then I would like to hear from Joey as well, because I've been taking notes and we kind of have Nadia abstaining, Harris and Reese voicing objections, Mercy and Dimitri okay for. So I would like to hear from Felix and Joey.
Short point to the treasury, to the circle funding mechanism. This proposal was first initiated and drafted in Catalyst Circle.
Felix, can I just a quick interjection? I couldn't find
Yes.
my mute button. So Nori, I'm not saying that I'm for it. I'm saying that it's a nuanced thing. We need to, you know, sort of figure out what the clarity is so that there's no conflict of interest, because I am not saying that the circle rep should take the money and pay themselves. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that the circle rep can do a specific job if it's agreed according to the diagram that Nadia has done. And then, you know, if they are willing to take the blowback, they can do that. Some of us that don't want that drama, we just want to stay outside of it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so you're neither for nor against, it's more nuanced.
Yes, it's nuanced. Thanks.
I second that. I agree with that, with what Marcy said.
All right, Felix, and then Dimitri.
And to give a short and good picture maybe of the CC funding mechanism. CC funding mechanism was the first time drafted in already during Catalyst Circle version 1, where some people that came together and said, hey, those people, they need their own budget to reward their contributors, because this is how it should work, right? That the community engages with the circle rep, and then, okay, the circle reps coordinate, support their actions, right? And this was then submitted by the Catalyst admin team for Fund 7 and 8. This was actually never Catalyst Circle proposal. This is a Catalyst Circle admin proposal, which is in collaboration with the Catalyst Circle. Means the accountability and all rights on the proposal, it's not the Catalyst Circle itself, it's the Catalyst Circle admin team. So what I would recommend is to say also in order, okay, Fund 9 just kicks off. This proposal is already an evolution. It was improved already from Fund 8 regarding to Fund 7, shutting a call with the Catalyst Circle, the CC admin team, figuring out already, okay, we see how it works out now. We have 21 days to submit proposals. We should use this 21 days, taking already what we earn here, bring it to the CC admin team, draft what we see doesn't fit here already in a new proposal for the next funding round, for example. But including the CC admin team, as they are accountable to the proposal as well, they have to report on the proposal and they have to make the decisions as well, then as they are the original submitters. But to make this clear, it's the CC admin team in the end who has to decide on this, because it's their proposal to support the Catalyst Circle.
I just want to say one thing to that is, speaking on behalf of the admin team, is that while we're the gatekeepers, we only are ensuring alignment with what the proposal says. It's not for us to say whether it's a good or bad idea. It's if it doesn't fit, and you know, in the case of Dimitri, when it says explicitly you cannot pay a circle member, and that was not the intention. I just want to say for us, stepping down to then say, okay, well, I'll be a sub-circle but not a rep, is still in contravention of what originally was intended of that proposal. So that's what we're pushing. I don't want it to be seen as we're saying we're denying it right away. We're just saying it needs to be aligned with exactly what is written, like everybody else has provided us.
Thanks, JP, for that clarification. Dimitri.
Yeah, no, just wanted to ask whether this is being live streamed or put on YouTube or whatever, and if so, is there a link?
Sorry, I didn't catch all of that. Can you rephrase? Can you say that again?
Yes, as normally is the case, is it being live streamed or put onto YouTube at the moment, as is normally the case? And if so, what is the link?
We are not live streaming at the moment because Reese is not in his studio, and he normally does that. But we will release the recording.
I didn't hear it. Can you repeat the question, Nori?
He was wondering if we were being live streamed, and if so, what's the link to it? Okay, and as part of the admin team too, after following up on Felix's and JP's statement, we are the stewards and responsible to the community for this particular proposal. And there is explicit language there that the circle reps shall not pay themselves from this fund. And so even if you step down and do work, I think I don't disagree that people should be paid for work if there's work and there's a fee for it, or a bounty or whatever system. However, the thing that overrides that is the legitimacy and kind of making sure that we come across as legit, and there's no question that funds are being diverted in some way that people can question. We've had enough drama around the circle already that I don't want to leave that door open. And so my personal view as an admin team member is we cannot release funds from the rapid funding treasury into the wallets of any circle member. So we can release it to people that are in the subcircles and everything else. So that's kind of where I sit. And from the conversation, we have people that are either abstaining or think it's more nuanced, and another set that are also in agreement that we can't be doing this. So I think that's where we're going to go. Just as the admin team, we cannot release any of the rapid funding funds into Dimitri's wallet, but we can into any of the subcircles. Chris, and then Joey.
I think my hand up went up last, so I'm quite happy just to defer until a slightly later moment, unless you want me to all go now.
Okay, Joey, we haven't heard from you yet as a circle seat.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with Mercy that no one should be looked down upon because they want to get paid for their work. However, it's a slippery slope when the proposal says one thing and you kind of twist that around. And we've had enough community engagement and controversy that I'd like to see the next 3 months of my term without controversy so I can focus on getting something done. So I would say no, I would say not to fund anyone that had been in the circle. So again, that's the way I feel.
All right, thanks, Joey. And then Chris.
Yeah, I guess I just want to give a perspective, and I don't necessarily think this needs to be taken for the record, but just a view. Having listened now, I agree that people should be paid for work done, but maybe it's for work done complete. So the reason why I sort of suggested around payments and retrospective is that once the work is complete and then it's potentially delivered and then shown to, I guess, either the admin team or the circle as a group to be able to demonstrate that these tasks have been accomplished. Perhaps that then will provide both the community and then the circle with comfort that that work should be paid for. What I would say is that if there's been decisions or process put in place for this fund at least, then maybe it's one to put into to put a pin in to decide on what the correct process is come next fund.
Thanks, Chris. And yeah, that just triggered a thought for me as well. And to simplify things, the admin team absolutely does not want to be a gatekeeper or kind of in charge of these funds in the first place. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the community based on their voting on the specific wording of the proposal, and that's what we're enforcing. So moving forward, I would love it if the admin team does not put any more rapid funding proposals, but each of the subcircles does. And then they can have their own treasury management and come up with their own systems and agreements. And then each subcircle can be held accountable to the community for how those funds are deployed. Because we absolutely, as the admin team, don't want to be the gatekeepers of that. We're just doing what we feel is right to the spirit of the proposal itself. And we want to be able to close it out without any more drama around how the funds were deployed. Okay, it sounds like we've come to a landing on that topic. So the next thing on the agenda is what's the agenda and output of the circle for the remainder of the term? And it looks like we're moving forward with a lot of ideas around subcircles and at the bottom of this agenda, there's elections for CCv4. Is that kind of the direction we're heading, is define circle process, kind of evolve what we're doing and understand where we're going to be when circle v4 steps in some form? And part of that is, yeah, will there be general elections like we had before, or will sub-circles be having their own internal elections and then bring a rep forward? Will the rep be, as Nadia's diagram suggests here, just a reporter to report on the activities of the circle and possibly coordinate with other circles if there are cross-functional issues and questions? Those are all huge topics that I think would be great to have a conversation next about. And Dimitri and Chris, your hands are up. Was that from last time?
Yep, I've just taken mine down.
Okay. Reese, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I think Nadia's process is pretty, she says it's a draft, but I think it's actually quite a good place to start. I think it's the perfect way to do it. Like, we do it in a slightly more secular way, maybe within our own specific communities, but it enables us to actually get more votes, because there wasn't a lot of participation in the main, like, general voting process anyway. And if we can have our own distributed voting within our communities and then put a rep forward, I think that's not going to be a much better way to get a better representation or representative from the community, rather than, I think maybe there were 15 people voting for me as an individual, which doesn't really represent the 3,000 odd stateful operators, in my opinion anyway. So I think that would be a much better way to move forward. And I think just having someone in to report and a way of kind of coordinating the groups together is literally the Occam's razor kind of solution, and probably what we should be trialing out this month.
So that Joey and then Nadia.
Yeah, I agree with Reese. I like what Nadia put together. I think it was well thought out. And of course, I would rather see that than her step off the role of being in the circle, or even Mercy step off, or even Dimitri. So if the three of them could maybe collaborate on this concept and come together, maybe the circle could function in the same way, and they could rotate people in and out of the seat and still be effective.
Nadia and then Chris.
So I appreciate the the vote of beyond draftness of this. I think it requires I don't have, for me, I would love to, how I would approach this with the people that I work with mostly is to say, here's an idea. What do you guys think about this? I don't know where that's just how I always feel. I would come to them and say, hey, what do you think? Should we vote? Do you want to point? Do people want to put their hands up? How does everyone feel about it? I don't know what our space is, because here we have something that's really a community representation. And also we have this obligation to the governance piece that we're here creating together. So that makes the most sense to me, rather than projecting something on. And as I said, I haven't really shared or distributed this very much outside of like a couple people who just to say, like, what do you think? I also want to make clear that I'm not going to take this rep role. I think I have the Treasury trustee role. I don't think that it's, so I'm going to vacate the rep role regardless. However, I think because of having a Treasury trustee role, which is also just like that's a volunteer role, I think that the roles that are on the circle here in this one should be compensated, and I think it's important that they are incentivized and that we allow people to come in and compensate for work. I really stand with Dimitri and Mercy, and I think everyone here. I don't think any of us here think volunteerism is like the way to go in the direction forward. So I think it's very important that those roles are compensated. And that they're all compensated evenly for the most part. So I just want to make that clarification and also say that I'm suggesting that maybe as an approach. I understand that might not work for everyone. So I'd love to hear what people think about what is it like to go back to like sort of the communities and say, here's an idea as a response to this. And is there interest in it or what's the feedback?
Chris.
This is just more of a banal thing, really. So ATH understood, TH understood. I'm not sure what PP or GF means. GF means something totally different to me. Can we clarify that? Gluten-free? Girlfriend? Can we just tidy that up so no one's confused like me?
Which one?
Just on the slide, there's managers PP GitHub board. Don't know what that is.
Governance framework. Governance framework.
Governance framework, and then the PP GitHub board.
Prioritize problem GitHub board.
Gotcha. Maybe
Thanks.
just in case.
So I will put that in here as we speak. Thank you for asking for that.
No worries. I'm glad I don't need to uphold girlfriends for workflow boards.
Thanks for the clarification. I think that's good. Joey, your thoughts?
So,
Chris.
So Nadia, in your representation here, how do you view this working? That the reporter would sit on the circle in these meetings every 2 weeks, or would that rotate through this circle that you have here? And is Mercy have the same kind of concept?
Sorry, I lost my screen there. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I was thinking that like, it's nice I feel both ways about it. I'm not someone who's really for like a lot of time or continuity of people in roles other than meaning, well, I'm more for the development of experience across roles. I guess that's what I want to say here. So the rep could be, the reporter could be someone where different people could fill that role. You could have, I think it's important that you're hearing me speak off cuff because I don't know the answer to this question. This is just me thinking out loud. I think it could be that the reporter also knows how to do the job of communicator, also can step in as archivist. So there should be a little bit of like expectation there for those things. Like, here's what we do when we have a meeting. Here's the cliff notes. Here's what we're talking about. So or you could take the route that they all hold those roles fundamentally. And if there's someone who can't serve that role for a certain purpose, they can all stand in for each other. But I think the outcome should be the same. If someone comes to this meeting, the expectation is they know how the prioritized problem board works. They know what needs to be added on there. Or they know what needs to be done to move it across. So, I don't think that these aren't huge jobs, but there is a certain amount of like contextual understanding that needs to happen in order to be able to fulfill them in lieu of someone else. Does that answer your question?
Thanks, Nadia. I think that is an important point, is there's a certain amount of, I'd say, technical knowledge required to use the GitHub board and manage things and know how it flows, and having people who are fluent in that and would be nice. So having a new person every 2 weeks may be very disruptive to the flow of things. So unless there's some training or mentoring or apprenticing going on to help them be up to speed when they hit the ground running.
I guess when I say I'm not a fan of one person holding one role for a long time, I mean, I don't think anyone should only be able to do one thing here, right? I think there should be some sense of like a little bit of being able to be agile within this setup. So not that this, I can't do anything else because this is what I do kind of a thing. There should be a little bit of flexibility to it.
Yeah. All right.
And as to your question, Joey, regarding what the funded proposal group is doing, so what was done was that we just because, you know, funded proposers are such a tough group to engage. What we did was that we sort of did it on a geographic basis, you know, a bit of focus on the town hall. So the reps come from the various geographic areas. And so far, we have had quite a bit of success with that. And the advantage of, you know, having this group, you know, for me, sort of month by month, is that we, you know, like, it's easy to identify what people's strengths are and what they bring to the table, and it just makes it easy to just, you know, carry on work. So on a big scale, we are, you know, at least for the remainder of the term, we are going to maintain that sort of regional distribution. But I will also ask Nadia for permission to present this, because we are still sort of working out how to use the what do you call it, the funding mechanism, which we haven't worked out how to use that yet. So maybe this could be a way to go. And I think that we should also figure out, for me right now, I'm thinking how to merge that with what Nori said earlier on in terms of making it, you know, putting some openness to it, you know, maybe even presenting it in town hall and asking people if what they want to do. And that means that somebody has to manage that as well. I realize that sometimes that's the toughest job of all. So yeah, that I don't know if that helps, Joey, but that sort of is still fluid.
Thanks, Nadia and Mercy. Any other questions, Joey?
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of statements. So as far as being familiar with the priority board, I know Stefan had met with myself and Bullish and or Dumpling and did some training on how to use the board. So I think if we could get people trained like that, it would be okay for them to move into the seat during this last 3 months anyway, until we have an election. The value that I see is the same when I created the subcircles to go out and represent all the circles at the different town halls and social groups, is that they're going to get experience that I'm hoping they'll bring back to the table and want to be in the circle for the elections in Circle 4. So I think the more exposure these people get in the circle, the more chances we're going to have people that actually want to join the circle in Circle 4. So just sort of that.
Joey. Chris and then Felix.
Two very quick comments. First of all, if I heard and acknowledged that funded proposals are maybe quite challenging to reach. There's the challenge teams that can maybe be a lever here, or maybe what we could do is we could include a question into monthly reporting that expressly asks, as a funded proposer, would you like to communicate anything to the funded proposer circle rep? And then we capture a database column of any comments that are made there that can be passed and then handed over. That's a really silly, simple thing that we can do.
Amazing.
Could we include,
Great idea.
Could we include that for the tool makers as also, because it's hard to get the tool makers to look up from their keyboards. They're working, and unless they really have a need, it's hard to get them to come back to the circle for things.
If you we can ask one or more questions. It's an optional thing. It doesn't have to be a forced entry in the question form, in the reporting form. Yeah, it's just if someone wants to raise something, and then we can just draw attention to it during the coordinator meetings to communicate that to challenge teams pretty easily.
Amazing.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Felix.
Yes, Chris, let's do it, man. Please. And one thing I think what would be really great as well as we have Circle here, maybe take some brainstorming sessions through the next weeks as well, and going a little bit in refining the circle itself. Because what happened a little bit is that individuals made great achievements, some of them with their communities, but the circle itself didn't really improve through the last 6 months. There wasn't really any changes, and I think we should be really on a situation here where we are able to experiment and just say, hey, okay, we see it's shaping, it's taking form. Oh, okay, also making some, yes, giving it some speed, and say, especially outreach to the community. I think where's the biggest lack. Nobody really understands what Circle is about. It's not that sexy, but it would only make sense if we have the participation of the community, not only reflected via the representatives, but also to the Circle as whole somehow. So a website would be really cool, for example, just really simple stuff, you know, whatnot, but maybe giving it some time and some focus and say, oh, okay, what are actually the points we have to address? Where can we improve? How can we get the community into the improvement process? Because it should be driven by them, not by us. And yep, definitely spending some time there to say, okay, let's not get static here. It's Catalyst after all. We have this amazing environment to experiment, right? Even if it's the circle.
And the circle does have a website. It has very little content in it right now, but it could be a natural place to embed polis polls if we want to do that again, or other means of engagement and getting input from the community. So that's all at our disposal. Joey and then Nadia.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I noticed that we've lost Dimitri. I hope he understands that, you know, I fully understand getting paid for the work that you do, and I support that. However, this method is, like I said, a slippery slope because of the way the proposal went. So I hope he will continue to support his subcircles and continue with this idea, like rotating some people in and out. Oscar and the other guys are good guys, so they could contribute, and that role would still have some representation.
Thanks, Joey. And just to answer Felix's chat question, the circle has a working session on the every other Thursday at the same time as right now. So we'll add you to that meeting invite. And Nadia.
I was just going to share, as far as distribution of information, that Phil K recently, I think some of you are aware, has that, is developing the option of like a wiki that the community can contribute to, and maybe that would be something where you could have like easy dialogue as well, so that we could have things. I like the idea of the website too. It's sort of one directional. I guess the polls will be as well, but I'm just throwing that out there as an idea, something we could consider, that there might be community forming tools that would allow us to capture the conversation more organically. So yeah.
Thanks. Chris, your hand is up still, or do you have something?
I mean, I can just sort of pick up just on the point up in the chat. So in the background, Harris, Jack, and I are working on the governance portal. This is going to essentially be a wiki for all kind of components of governance within Catalyst and, you know, broader Cardano. More generally, we do not intend for that to be a centrally maintained tool. It might be initially, but there's absolutely going to be opportunity to the community to maintain it, and that's always been the intention for it. So just watch this space, and you know, maybe what we can do is within the next month, maybe Jack can join us for a short while just to present where we are with the governance portal, and so the circle is aware, or if he's not available, I'll certainly do it. Harris, do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, no, it's certainly a developing you know, piece that we've been working on for a bit, just developing a knowledge base and content that is to be contributed sort of broadly by multiple parties. That's certainly the intent. Yeah, so I certainly would support maybe us bringing that into you know, sharing the thoughts and getting feedback from the circle, since the circle could become part of that set of pages.
Thanks, Chris. Felix, is your hand up?
Sorry, no,
Okay.
dump me, sorry.
Reese, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry guys. I'm going to actually have to make a move, I'm afraid. But thank you, Chris. Nice to meet you. Yeah, looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better. I hope we kind of. Well, I think we're all on the same page and moving things forward. I'm really excited about what's coming in the future for Circle. I think this next fund is going to really change the way that we're operating for the better. And I think that's a very positive step forward for everyone, including us personally. So you can always reach out to me in a message somewhere or on Slack, but otherwise, guys, I'll catch up with you next week for the working group.
I would like to, yeah, that's great that you're joining the working group. I would love for us to actually reconvene for that next week, just because I think there's a lot we still need to hammer out for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be present for that.
Great.
Nice to meet you too, Reese. Look forward to it next time.
All right. Sounds like we're starting to kind of gel around redesigning how the circle may operate through subgroups, subcircles. We seem to have subcircles forming in a number of different areas. And yeah, I'm really excited. We probably don't have time to go into the prioritized problem board, but I'm wondering, should we put that on hold and focus as a circle on the reconstitution and reformulating of what we're all about in the meantime, and kind of skip that part and really focus on getting stuff done? Lots of thumbs up. So, okay. Harris.
Yeah, I do think we should put in some effort, since we're at the beginning of Fund 9, on establishing, even if it's generically written, if we establish a set of seats, those seats could be represented by subcircles, they could be represented by individuals, we could call it something else, but we need to get challenges and proposals in the system, and we have until the 30th to do that. So I think we absolutely need to spend time in the working session, at least getting the proposals out there so they're in place. So when it's time for voting for CCv4, that we have a mechanism that's going to support us. Because I would propose that we use the challenges and proposals as our voting mechanism. So that would be, but we have to put the pieces in place to make it happen.
Okay.
So I don't know if we want to spend more time today on that.
All right, so does that mean that we will need to announce it in town hall next Monday? Because then the candidates can start putting in their proposals. Is that the thinking?
Yeah, so if we could actually establish the challenges with a $0 amount, but then individuals would need to step up and submit themselves as proposals. So yes. So we need to hurry up if we want to use that as a mechanism, which would be my recommendation. But, and again, we have to have, is it an individual, is it a group? Perhaps we can word it in such a way that there is a seat and people could come up with proposals for how that seat is filled also. But I'm open to suggestions here, but.
Mm-hmm. And this may be a really great conversation for the working session, because I think there are other, like the model I'm seeing evolve through the CA group, maybe there is no idea scale vote. That may make sense for like general ADA holder or some others, but if that group is strong enough and has enough legitimacy across their constituency, maybe they can come up with their own election mechanism outside of idea scale too. So there may be a hybrid kind of approach here that might be interesting to discuss, but I understand there's also time pressure, so we should get on the same page as quick as possible. Nadia.
Yeah, I really appreciate everyone's conversations. One thing I would say is that I just totally lost my train of thought, and I hate when that's recorded forever. There was like 4 things I wanted to say, and now they all just came into a collision at the front of my head. Maybe if I talk long enough, they'll come up. Okay, so first thing, it sounds like we have a lot more to get into about that, and conversationally than we're going to get done here. And it does seem like it didn't occur to me that a subcircle would put forward petitions, or proposals, but it's that would be an interesting development if you had a subcircle rather than us putting meaning the bodies that would be funded. It would be interesting to have those you could almost have like a side treasury and funding for these things out of which that came. That might be really interesting to serve those different groups. Just having seen how it has come forth, and Jeremy did a tremendous amount on the governance, all of it really on the governance framework for that treasury set to create a model and to create an experiment. So there's a lot that happened here, and I think there's a lot of directions. It would be interesting to propose funding for a representative subcircle. I think that's a way that it could go. I can see it going either of those ways, and or a single person, and maybe the representation is based on the group itself, which would be really interesting. So I think we have a lot of space to really involve the community in making some of these decisions, which would be a fantastic evolution from last time, where felt like there was not really like that connection between the representation and the community. So yeah, lots of good stuff came out of this. I'm excited to hear and to see where we go next with it.
Thanks, Chris, and then Felix.
Yeah, just want to follow up on that. I just want to flag or raise. I think we need to be really conscious of, and I mean this in the most positive way rather than the least positive way. We need to be really conscious of any additional proposal process not undermining the existing Catalyst process. And so what I mean by that is if there are going to be proposals being put forward for rapid funding or whatnot, whatever these sort of side treasury amounts should be for, perhaps there should be caps on like the scope and size of those projects, like make them small so that, you know, it's little bits of work that need to be done really quickly, hence the rapid funding mechanism. And so that, you know, there doesn't become a perception outside of, you know, these groups, these circles and subcircles, that this is another way to get your project funded, right? And there's a big risk of that, I think, once you know, we put the wheels into motion on some of these proposal processes that deviate from the current Catalyst plan.
Thanks, Chris. Felix, and then Joey.
Directly to this, very agree, because I think also all the time, if you once have governance bodies on place and committed teams, you won't have sustainability for these roles, even you have to come back each funding round. So the main goal here is, I think, as well, that when we say, okay, there could be parameter change. Right now, there are referrers, for example, amazingly important role on the beginning of Catalyst if there's nothing. But now, well, it's referring itself already. To say, oh, okay, could this be allocated to somewhat? But in this case, to say, and the situation to say as well, okay, this needs to be a bridge between IHK and the community where they can meet together. So having, for example, a decision-making body which is able to do any decisions, but needs to be sustainable as well. And when we want to make it sustainable and we want to move it from there, then we need to know as well from IHK size, okay, what are the measurements you set to be able to make a parameter change like this? So when we go into circles and subcircles, we know already, okay, we somehow have to move there, and that we can coordinate this amongst us. But really having the vision from both sides, having a clarity, what you actually need to make such a role sustainable. And going through Catalyst on the very beginning anyway, I think is important for a first time, purely for the legitimacy already. Look already, okay, does the community endorse it? How many votes are there? If they submit and we see, hey, nobody's voting on this, maybe we shouldn't even speak about parameter changes because we see, hey, the community doesn't endorse this movement. Creating by a first Catalyst funding round a legitimacy, but definitely not with the mindset to say we come back in the next funding round. There shouldn't, or in 4 funding rounds or 5 or whatnot. So, but yeah, sustaining it might be difficult because nobody knows what actually will happen and all this stuff. But yeah, I think we need clarity and a little bit better coordinations that we know, okay, what can the reps bring as message to their community and say, hey, look, this is exactly what they need. Guys, let's build on this. Let's build our path, and then joining each other. So, because somehow, sometimes it's a little bit being isolated in front of you IHK guys, being here all the time, full time, and you doing your stuff, we do our stuff. And Catalyst Circle aims to facilitate conversations across stakeholder groups. So we should definitely say that as well. Hey, it's not often community members come together with IHK folks, which also can send the message back to their entity. So, yep.
Thanks, Felix. Joey.
Yeah, just for Chris's sake, from the beginning, we've all used the subcircles in a different way, and our concepts was a little bit different. And I think Nadia and Mercy, more like a project manager, when you had a specific project to be done, they would assign a subcircle person. I used it more for communication to try to broaden the communication out into all the town halls. So just so you understand, we all have a little bit different way of using the subcircles, and I'm probably going to use some for project 2 coming forward with the meeting that we'd had with AIM about the community database. I want to do some exploration there and some discovery, but just so you understand, we all were using them a little bit differently, so it wasn't just one defined purpose of a subcircle.
Thanks for the clarification, Joey. Nadia, and then we should start wrapping up and heading into our closing comments.
Yeah, to that point, one of the pieces of feedback that I got back is that this, we don't need to create, unless we have created, there's no new function of a circle rep that should be created by the subcircle. So the subcircle, the distribution of the representatives scope is like sort of the parameters of how this gets distributed. So perhaps in that working group session, we talk about like, does this represent that? Can we back it in and make sure that we don't have anything on here that's beyond the scope? And are we fulfilling everything that is part of the scope? And then, so it sounds like we have a lot of questions here. And I was, yeah, I appreciate the comments there on really making sure that we don't develop things that are outside of how the whole ecosystem should be able to develop. So that's from me, and I guess my ultimate sentiment is like there's a lot of work to be done here still, and to make sure that we have not left questions unanswered that will be issues in the future.
Thanks, Nadia. And for the working session moving forward, we've kind of left that as kind of a organize yourselves meeting slot. And although to be really effective, I think maybe if you guys are okay with it, the admin team can set up agendas, prepare a Miro board, and kind of help facilitate that process, just so that it's a little more productive as we go in and not so freeform. And yeah, we're happy to jump in and do that. And it may be different parts of the admin team because it's not at a great time for JP, but but we'll do our best. All right, let's start heading into our final comments. Chris, since you're new here, do you want to kick us off? How did the meeting go for you, and any final thoughts or things you want to send us away with?
Yeah, really interesting. Very pleased to be contributing. I will do my best to use 2 ears and 1 mouth in that ratio. It's quite difficult for me because obviously I have pretty strong views, but everybody does, right? And I think this is a good forum, but I will be doing my best to be actively listening first and foremost. And I think the work that you're all doing is really vitally important, and long may it continue. And I hope that we figure out some of these nuances that really do need to be unpacked. Yeah, the final thing that I'll just sort of say is I'll get onto the question into the report form now. As soon as we finished, I'll get it implemented. It'll be in the report form by tomorrow, I would imagine. So some people might have already started filling out the reports, but in any case, it'll be in the report form. The other thing is, I would like to make an agenda item, perhaps for next time, to think about this point of referrers and what referrers actually mean in light of if you've been a proposer more than once, or you've been funded more than once, and thinking about, to Felix's point, how maybe those resources could be rethought. And the reason why I'm saying that is, I think if you're new to Catalyst and you're referred, then that's fair game. But I think we've seen that there is people who get referred even though, or put referrals down even though they've already been part of the community for more than one round. And maybe we can address that as part of a circle discussion debate at some point soon.
Thanks, Chris. Felix, and then Nadia.
Do I have my hand up? Oh no, I have to say something. Let's say something intelligent. And maybe that's something how we could support such improvement. Let's say, for example, that we are able to define already agenda topics for the next week. Because I'm a little bit against this decision making each 2 weeks. It slows and fucks down a process. It's not so enormous. I mean, yeah. And to say, oh, okay, if we are able to identify a bullet point for next week, say, oh, okay, could there be some recommendations, for example, regarding challenge teams? Then what we do during the week, we go back to our communities already. We ask them for their feedback, and this is what we present next week. So we know already, okay, that we not speak only what our thoughts are about them, but that we can be what we should be, representatives, not presenters. Yes. So I will do this for my own initiative, reaching out to folks and asking what they think about it. Or we team up and make this together, which would be even better because we are here to explore the highest potential of fucking human collaboration. So,
thanks, Felix.
Yes.
And just a reminder, we do have a Slack server, so please use that in between meetings as well.
Yeah, but I can only join by mobile. Can admin team add me via PC?
Yes.
Because I left some while ago.
Oh, yeah, that's a good reminder. We need to get Felix and Chris onto the Slack properly. We'll do that. All right. Nadia and then Mercy.
Yeah, on the heels of that, is it good with this group as a sort of a come away point for me? I would like to just take this and shop it more broadly within the PA server. So if that's, I'm getting nods. So I think maybe I'll do that and just say, like, here's an idea that's coming around. What do you guys think about it? And get some feedback. And then there'll be an ability for me to be able to be more succinct. And yeah, so I'll come away from it and do that. It doesn't sit well with me, the situation with Mitri not being here. So I think it's important that we figure that whole situation out in general aid holders. So maybe we can follow up with that in Slack, because I want us to make sure that we are like effectively all working together. And that's something that I hope that we can accomplish for this fund, this greater sort of cohesion among us, teamwork wise. So yeah.
And the admin team will reach out to the sub circle that's forming and see what they want to do, because it sounds like Dimitri has stepped down. So I'll reach out to him and Quasar and Lido Nation and the rest to see how they want to proceed. And that's a greater question, if it's okay for them to, in the interim, appoint somebody to at least have a voice here. And then, because we never have the question whether this will trigger another emergency election or anything like that. And it looks like the CAs are going one way, with Nadia also kind of stepping back, and then Dimitri as well. So perhaps just for this fund, we find people who are willing to step in from their subcircles. But if anybody thinks we should be doing an emergency election, then we should definitely talk about that, maybe at the working session. Yeah, thank you, Mercy, and then Harris.
Very quickly, I want to, I know that this is sort of a wrap up, but I just want to put it on record that, this whole thing, the drama, not getting funded, everything, For me, I have felt that it's been worth it because of the work that we've been able to do with Danny, Chris, Harris, Marek, in terms of some of the improvements. So I'm not going to go into details. It does make it worth it in terms of all the challenges. So I want to say thank you and to put that on record. The second thing is I want to second what Chris said, the referral bonus. I think that we should be making it very public. There should be a lot of openness to that. So if we can put it up on record, I think that would be fantastic. I mean, we can put that on the agenda for whenever. I think that would be great. So that's it. I think this is a great meeting, as usual. It's like the more we dig, it's like it becomes more complicated. But I think that we'll get somewhere, at least if we can give V4 something better than we got. I think that would be work done. And if we can keep maintaining the success with IOG in terms of having some changes implemented, I think that is a cherry on the cake. So thanks, everyone. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Mercy. Harris, and then Joey.
Yeah, definitely really felt this was a productive discussion. We really brought some really interesting ideas together, and we've been able to really articulate some viewpoints on where we're coming from. So thank you, everyone, for your time in being here and contributing such great ideas. I would love for our working session if we can, ideate yourselves or with your communities, definitely as you've already suggested, but if you have something concrete you can present, bring it into that working session, try to, bring at least some tangible ideas in terms of how things might be, or how we might address proposals, because again, we do have this deadline that is coming up, and if there's challenges in governance that we need to put in place, or if there's a part of the voting that we should establish and have in place, think about that as we're entering into that working session. But I do think that all of your great participation and ideas, I think can sustain the circle and keep it going into the next round, and keep that focus of making it better. I think Nora, you summarized that really nicely, of making that a momentum to keep things going. So, but otherwise, I thought this was a great dialogue, great discussion. Thanks as always, Nori, for facilitating and keeping us on track. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Harris. Joey, and then JP.
So I think in the very first meeting, I quoted Buckminster Fuller, who said, there's no failed experiments, just unexpected outcomes. So this is an experiment. So we have less than 3 months maybe to go for the next election. So let's experiment. Let's see what we can do to improve it.
Thanks, Joey. JP, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, maybe one thing I'll say to this group is something I get told at work all the time. The reward for good work is more work. So you don't get really praise or anything, and the hard work gets no praise. So this type of work and the struggle that we're feeling is really not specific to Catalyst. This is a writ large problem. And so when I hear you guys talking and I see it and I see the disagreements, this is what's expected. So if we come in thinking that this isn't going to happen, we've already failed. And so I just want to, we're here, we're supporting, yes, it sucks to not have the funding, but is that really why we joined Catalyst in the first place, was to get funding? I don't think so. And so, well, not for me at least. And so I think we need to keep that in our mind. And to Felix's point about the working sessions, 2 weeks is not enough. I think we've been saying this for a while. I know it's hard to meet every week, but if you're going to be handling this level of information and making these decisions, it needs that regular check-in. So just kind of putting that out there as well. But love being here, love listening, love you guys, love Catalyst. Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody. For myself, I really appreciate everybody being here. And I really actually appreciate the level of honesty and courage it takes to actually bring up the hard topics and to engage in that level of conversation. And I'm glad that we have enough trust and safety here that we can do that. Because I think it's important, because we're not all going to get along. We're not all going to agree. We come from different contexts and backgrounds and countries and all sorts of different situations. And so everyone will bring their diverse viewpoints, and being able to remain civil and talk through it and make decisions, I think, is a really key component to governance. And we're figuring out how to do that as a group. And I hope we can continue that through the sub-circle process. And I'm really excited to see what you all come up with. And yeah, I'm glad we are switching to kind of a weekly cadence with working session, formal meeting, back and forth. So I look forward to seeing you next week. And the admin team will put out an agenda for next week so that we're on a good footing for that and have some things going in. And we'll also prepare a Miro board, because I think we're going to be doing a lot of brainstorming. So we'll have that as a resource as well. All right. Thanks, everybody. We're a little bit over time, but I appreciate everybody being here.
Thanks,
Everybody
everyone.
doesn't
care,
feel
guys.
comfortable with Miro.
Great week.
Take care, bye-bye.
Just wanted to mention, if that anybody doesn't feel comfortable with Miro, they should reach out to the CCv.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we assume things, but they are not.
Yeah, we can learn during the meeting too.
Yeah, we can do that. Go through how it works.
Okay. Bye, guys. Bye.
Thanks, gentlemen. Bye.
Thanks a lot, Nori.